Hello to those who've just joined. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we'll be joining in just a little bit. Just hang on tight and thank you for joining us early. Yeah.
Keluar sepanjang hari, masih harum bak puspa wangi.
Inilah puspa wangi saya.
Deodoran Nivea Hokkaido Rose dengan serum rose Hokkaido mendalam dan vitamin C pekat. Ia memelihara secara mendalam untuk kuasa 5 kali kecerahan agar kulit cerah dan licin dan wangian rose berpanjangan.
Itulah rahsia wangi yang kekal lama dan saya yakin sepanjang hari.
Patutlah awak selalu terselar dengan wangian yang mewah.
Saksikan Bintang setiap Rabu hingga Sabtu jam 9 malam di TV3.
Eric. Do you know why I suka sangat hari raya ni? Hiasan lampu lip-lap, bau rendang. Yang paling I suka mestilah keluarga I.
Hai. Cucu Atuk, Ina.
That's Makno. She's a real...
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, everybody is on mute. So I think I feel like I'm talking to myself, but just wanna wish all of you a happy Wesak Day and thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. We are also putting up a Facebook Live on our Facebook, SERATA. So once we get that up on, we'll be starting shortly lah. Yeah, so on the comment section, if you have the time, maybe you can just write a little bit about where you're tuning in from, be in KL or somewhere here in KK, and just a brief introduction of yourself or anything you'd like to share. Please feel free to do so, and we'll probably get going in just a bit. Yeah. So I see we have Harry, or we have Tahira or Tebi from Bamboo River in Selangor. She says hello. And then we have Umavatni from Collective of Applied Law and Legal Realism. Thank you for joining us. We have Megan. Hi Megan, true supporter of SERATA since day one, the Justice for Sisters and Kasih. Hi Harry from Toran. Thank you for also showing yourself. It's nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah. We have Valentine as well from NGO Kasih. Hi, Valentine. Yeah, and also we have some of our members here with us as well. Robert, also our admin Laila, and also our founder and president Sabrina. So we seem to be having a little bit of issue with our live on Facebook. Oh, also sorry, Amir Harith. Hello, you're all the way from KL. Hello, hello, and welcome to our conversation. Oh, okay. I'm still admitting a few people that are just entering the waiting room. And we have What's Gift from Chahaya. Oh, hello from Sanakan, all the way in Sanakan. Thank you. We look forward to sharing our findings as well. There's a lot for us to unpack. So I'm not sure what's going on with the Facebook Live, but it doesn't seem that we're able to streamline it over there. Any updates on that? Dapatkah? Okay. Seems like I don't think we'll be able to connect it to Facebook, but that's all right. We'll be sharing our recording on our social media anyways. And okay, people are still coming in, so I will probably start in about 3 minutes. So those of you who are just coming in, hello TJ, welcome. Yeah, where are you connecting from? So in the chat box, what's going on right now? Everybody is just checking in and just telling each other where you're tuning in from. So we have a lot of people from West Malaysia as well, and also our friends here in KK. So for those of you who may or may not know about SERATA, if I may be able to just share a little bit about our NGO while we wait for we give a bit of time to our participants joining in. We have quite a number actually. Yeah, right now I'm admitting one more person. But anyway, SERATA stands for Society for Equality, Respect, Trust for All Sabah here. Okay, so and we are based here in KK and we promote gender equality, promoting partnerships with boys and men and in partnership with women and girls lah. So in this particular program or project that we've been working on for the past 6 months, we would just want to share a little bit about what we've been doing. And if you don't know much about us now, you can always find out later and check our socials on Facebook and Instagram at Kita SERATA. Okay, so now we have about 14 participants. Okay, that's great. We have actually a lot more people that signed up. So I think they will join throughout the session lah. And if not on Facebook, we will be sharing it there. We also are joined by one of our recent collaboration that we've got into contact with a consultant with industrial relations and HR, which she is here with us today. I think she prefers to be addressed as Tebi. Ya kah, Tebi? She's smiling. Her name is Tahira Manisa, and maybe she'll just say hi.
Hai. Nama terlalu panjang, jadi panggil
Allah.
Tebi.
That's nice. Ngam lah kalau tidak panjang saya macam Puan Tahira Manisa. Puan Tahira Manisa banyak bagi sokongan dan juga ya sangat memberi adalah manfaat bagi pihak SERATA with her advices that she's been giving us. So okay, yeah, we'll hear more from her in just a bit. Okay. So like I mentioned, if you want to put your video on, feel free, and I encourage you to do so also, and they will have a good photo lah. Kalau tidak pun tidak apa, but we just are very, on behalf of SERATA, very appreciative of all of you that has taken time off your public holiday to join us with us today lah. Sangat best juga lah, ada banyak supporter juga. And for those of you that's been with us since day one, especially with our programs in the past 6 months, thank you sangat-sangat lah. It gives us a lot of support and yeah, means a lot. To those of you who want to share the link to this Zoom, probably you can to anybody who's interested. Maybe you can share the link in this chat box. Can someone share it from my team? And maybe you can invite other friends that might be interested in joining. Yeah. Okay, so I think now it's 3:08. I'll be starting just about a minute or two. Maybe waiting for any last minute comers. Okay, thank you, Laila, for sharing the link. Yeah, so friends who are in this group chat can also share. Anybody can join within throughout the report launching. So without further ado, I think, oh, I have some more people joining. Tengok, sama lambat, tapi tidak apalah kan. Yang penting sampai juga. Okay, so we have a new participant that's just joined in. Feel free to invite more of your friends, and I'll be starting shortly. Also, participants that are in this group stand a chance to win 20 ringgit Grab vouchers. So yeah, stay tuned till the end. Mana tahu kau boleh dapat lunch kan for free from Grab gitu. Okay. We have someone by spot. I think this is Colin from Kasi, Geo Kasi. Hello, Colin. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello. Ini mesti pergi relax, bahkan today is a public holiday. Tapi thank you juga for spending the time to listen to our sharing lah. Okay. So I think, well, everybody's settling in and listening in from wherever you are coming from. Ada lagi na? I will be slowly adding people to the. Okay. Admit. Okay. Okay. Okay, so for those of you who just joined in, thank you for tuning in. No matter where you're coming from, you can just write down where you're from and where you're tuning in from, maybe from home, from your car, inside the chat box. Feel free to do so. If you want to leave your video on, that's totally up to you. No pressure. By the way, to all of the participants here, this meeting is recorded also because we'll be sharing it to our Facebook. So yeah, just a brief note lah. Okay, so I think I have stalled a bit too much. I stalled a bit too much. So I will first introduce myself. Patut saya introduce awal-awal lagi kan. Inilah nih, terlampau bercakap sampai lupa. Anyways, my name is Jennifer James. I am the program coordinator, program officer of SERATA. And today we'll be launching our report on assessing gender sensitivity on labor laws of the Sabah Labour Ordinance. And we'll be unpacking a lot on certain labor laws, but in particular with the sexual harassment protection and also parental leave entitlement that is also compared with the recent employment amendments act that was earlier enforced this year. So please stay tuned, and also if there are any questions, do leave it towards the end. A little bit of housekeeping: when you enter, just mute yourself, and yalah, the video is totally up to you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce and also a bit of opening remarks from our president, our founder of SERATA, that was founded in 2018, Sabrina. So she'll come on just to have a bit of opening remarks. So yeah, Sabina, I'll mute myself.
Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. I'm very excited today. I'm very excited to be launching this report because I find that this is a great milestone for SERATA as a small NGO to be launching a report on the Sabah Labour Ordinance. First of all, I would like to thank our funder, National Democratic Institute. I believe Miss Najwa is in the audience. And also, a very big thank you to Jennifer because she is the one that has been working very, very hard to put this report together. Without her, I don't think this report will be able to be launched today. Yes, so she has joined us for the past 6 months already. So you can see we have done a lot. Like we did the workshop for CSOs. We also did a stakeholder roundtable. And then we did quite a number of courtesy visits as well, because to have such a report, it's not something that we can do ourselves. We have to get information. And of course, thank you to our new strategic partner, Nasara Consult, for coming on board and adding a bit more professionalism to our report as well. And I would also like to thank Laila, who is our admin assistant. You know, she is the one who's been doing all the calling, getting appointments set up, you know, because she's a very highly motivated person. You know, if not for people like her, I think we also like, you know, taking our sweet time. So thank you, Laila. And also I would like to thank the rest of the members and EXCO of SERATA for always being very supportive and helping where they can. So yes, so let's get on to it and let's have a good time listening to, or maybe not a good time because the report just says that we're very behind when it comes to labor protections. How is it that Sabah and Sarawak actually has different workplace protections compared to the rest of Malaysia? You know, while everyone else is enjoying so many benefits, so many protections, but for Sabah and Sarawak, we have not had these protections. And for Sabah, the last amendment was in 2005. And while the Employment Act has, you know, they have removed the threshold so that everyone working in West Malaysia is covered by the law. For Sabah, there's still a threshold of 2,500. So where do we go wrong and how can we improve so that Sabah can be as competitive when it comes to places? And without further ado, I would like to hand back the floor to our OC and also our project officer, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Sabrina. Yeah, well, summarized in her opening remarks, memang bukan senang lah mau cakap pasal ini labor laws and also the journey that we've been through. Well, it's fun to just like, yeah, we finally get to share our findings. At the same time, kau kan ada rasa sedih juga lah sikit because ultimately we are left behind. Why aren't the recent amendments not streamlined to us here in Sabah and Sarawak? It's because we have different labor laws in which we also didn't really get into it until we got a hold of this project lah. And thank you to NDI also in that you're here and listening to our final report. So without further ado, I will just continue on lah. Okay, so first of all, I just want to go through some of the agenda. I will talk a little bit about the program activities from how the past 6 months, how we've been gathering data, how we've been conducting engagement visits, how we've been also doing programs like the workshop and also stakeholder roundtable with multiple stakeholders. Okay. Yeah, and also our key findings and results. Maybe some of you have already read our report, our unofficial report earlier. because we wanted to get some feedback and comments. But at the same time, if you would like to read it later on after this webinar, then that's fine too. We'll be also sharing a little bit of our challenges when coming into this project. It's a lot bigger than what we expected lah. And also a bit of feedback and commentary, just a brief one from our advisor. Yeah, so that's the agenda for today lah. And also at the end, ada juga that 20 ringgit grab voucher for any lucky participant that has joined us today. Okay, so going straight into it, I'm going to talk about our project timeline and activities that we've been done for the 6 months lah. So basically, it started in November. That's when I was hired. Yeah, that's when I started with SERATA. And this is what we've been doing lah. It's a very condensed version, but we did do a lot of planning and meeting with certain stakeholders online and in person as well. With JTK, with Sabah Law Society back in December. We also launched an online survey assessing employee awareness on the SLO employee rights. That was one. And in January was a big one for us. We did a 3-day workshop for our fellow CSO members. And I think that was a big success as well. A lot of things we didn't know or were aware of. Also in February, that's where we conducted more courtesy calls with Sabah Employers Association and also JEX, which was a government agency, Jabatan Hal Ehwal Kesatuan Sekerja, trade unions. And then March was when we were getting ready for our stakeholder roundtable discussion. And this was not just with our CSO members, but also with government agencies, employer, trade unions, and yeah, just having a discussion on what the current employment scene looks like or labor issues that we're facing. Not necessarily on our agenda, specifically sexual harassment and parental leave entitlement, but also just a general overview of what government agencies or these employee associations face on the day-to-day issues here in Sabah. And then in April, we also did a courtesy call to Jabatan Siasatan Jenayah, that is actually under PDRM, and specifically Section D11, and that deals with sexual harassment cases, or with and also cases that have to do with children and women. We also made a courtesy call to Ministry of Community Development and People's Wellbeing. Although we did not meet the minister in person, we did a meet with a representative, and it was definitely a fruitful one. And that's how we got from November last year to 6 months later in April. So it doesn't feel like 6 months, but that is what our journey has been through to get to this point lah. Yeah. So these are just some of the program activities that we did, the main ones that we did, the courtesy calls, the 3-day workshop in January, and also a stakeholder roundtable. For more info, you can see our Facebook. Ada banyak gambar. Okay. Okay, so just a brief overview of our courtesy calls and why we did a lot of what we did, meeting with these relevant stakeholders or individuals that were key to painting the scene here in Sabah lah. So here we have Sabah Law Society, one of our earlier courtesy calls. We had JEX here, Jabatan Hal Ehwal Kesatuan Sekerja. We also met with Sabah Employers Association. Here's the one with the PDRM, JSJ. The 11, here's one with the Ministry of Community Development and People's Wellbeing. Even though we wouldn't be able to meet in person, we also did online calls with trade unions and also JTK, which was the key, you will understand later, but they are the key stakeholder in this conversation when it comes to talking about the Sabah Labour Ordinance. Yeah. Sorry, saya lupa mau check in. Everybody okay with my pace and my sound? Boleh dengar juga kan? If yes, just put in the chat box thumbs up lah, saya boleh nampak. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there are still people joining us, by the way. So makin bertambah, makin nervous pula saya. Okay. it's interesting because I can't really see you, but I can talk because I'm not really nervous when I don't feel like I'm talking to anybody. Tolong mute ya. Okay. Moving on. This was the 3-day workshop that we held for our CSOs, CSO friends, and also a special thanks to some of the organizations that helped us better understand our rights as employees here in Sabah, also understanding what sexual harassment is and how much protection we actually need for it to be under the SLO, because as of now we don't have, I will get into it later, but as of now we don't have a protection against sexual harassment under the SLO. So a lot of the 3-day workshop was understanding our rights, from Perkeso to JTK. We also even got a deputy public prosecutor, DPP, to understand more on the penal code and the offenses that fall under that when it comes to sexual harassment, or even worse, like criminal sexual cases lah. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, great. So this was a stakeholder engagement we did 2 months ago, and we actually had a large number of agencies that came to listen to us. A big thank you to them also. We had Jabatan Pembangunan Sumber Manusia, we also had JAX, we also had JTK, 3 officers from JTK, we had the Sabah Employers Association, and also MTUC, a member of Sabah Banking Union as well. So that was a very good engagement that we had to better understand what we know now lah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the results of our report. So before I get into it, I will talk about how we structured our report in a way that's focusing on things that we can focus on. Just a disclaimer: we don't have, we're not experts on this, the Sabah Labour Ordinance. We're not experts on each and every legislation or each and every point under this ordinance, but we did try really hard, and we'll be focusing on protection on sexual harassment and also parental leave entitlement, as well as the gap between the EA as of now and also the SLO. So first, I would like to go into the differences between the EA and SLO. So to understand the differences a little bit, we have to go way back when Sabah was during the British, when it was still a separate British colony lah, when we were still North Borneo. So the SLO, Sabah Labour Ordinance, was enacted in 1950, and the Employment Act was only towards the only applicable in the Federation of Malaya at the time. And when to make things simple, when we decided to combine to be Malaysia, in 1965, the state level legislation, the Sabah Labour Ordinance, was declared a federal law in 1965. That means even though it's a ordinance under Sabah, it was declared a federal legislation. Therefore, can only be passed in the federal federal government lah. Oh, sorry, boleh dengar tak tu? Okay. So just a little bit of, this is just a little bit of a summarized version of it, but when we compare the amount of times the Employment Act has been amended over the past couple of decades compared to the SLO, it has been amended for over the 10 acts. They're amended over the course of 1956 to 2012. So you can say that the EA has been amended every decade or so. So it's been being updated, whereas the Sabah Labour Ordinance has only been amended once in 2005. So you can see the disparities that the SLO is not experiencing the same benefits or amendments that are being enjoyed by the EA. So that was the main I think, main takeaway lah from comparing these two legislations. If there's anything from my team members that you like to add on to this, feel free to do so, or just speak up, and that's fine. So just following into the recent EA 2022 amendments. So actually, these are the list of things that were mostly highlighted in the recent amendments enforced earlier this year. But since we could only really focus on certain amendments, which are these three, actually there's a much wider scope, and in terms of the imbalance or the inequalities there between these two legislations. But for the purpose of this report, I'll be focusing on the maternity leave, pregnancy protection, the maternity leave, paternity leave, and also sexual harassment lah. Okay. So actually, what's happening to the Sabah Labour Ordinance now? Actually, back in 2022, at the time, the Human Resource Minister, Sarvanan, said, okay, although the Employment Act is already being tabled to go through amendments and also have been approved, the amendments were not going to automatically reflect on the Sabah and Sarawak Chapter 60 ordinances. That was because until our respective state governments approve to do so, then only we would experience benefits of any kind lah. So that's just a little bit of overview. And what's happening with the current Sabah Labour Ordinance? This was actually a very recent update on who's doing anything when it comes to the Sabah Labour Ordinance. And this was actually it has been talks for quite some time to have a Sabah Labour Advisory Council where members in this council would advise on what's the best possible way when it comes to including best practices in the Sabah Labour Ordinance. But what I can share in this, what we know and from our findings here, since the SLO is a federal declared law, it must be scheduled in federal parliament to actually have any amendments. And we have determined that the JTK is the statutory agency that's responsible for encouraging the amendments of the SLO, and the Director General that is listed under the SLO refers to the Director of JTK. So in this case, JTK is very much responsible in pushing for any change on the SLO. However, what I've mentioned here, a need for an advisory council that was pushed by the Deputy Minister of Human Resource, which is Mustafa Sakwut of Sabahan. He encouraged this. He encouraged the formation of the SLAC, or the Sabah Labour Advisory Council, but it is tasked under a agency that is not under the Human Resource Agency. It is under KSTI or MOSTI here in Sabah. So there were a little bit of confusion, not really confusion, but when we were doing some engagement visits with other stakeholders, they did mention like, okay, why is this ministry in charge of looking after labor issues? Was a big question also, because one thing, Sabah does not have their own dedicated human resource ministry. So that's where there's a little bit of confusion there lah juga. As a result, the Sabah Labour Advisory Council is said to be pushed for here, but at the same time, when is the question that we don't have the answer to, despite asking the people that are supposed to be part of this possible council, and will it happen? And if it were to happen, that would mean JTK as a statutory agency that's responsible for this, that's responsible to push for amendments of JTK, remove the statutory, remove the statutory rights to the SLO. I hope I was making sense. Okay. So here, exactly, the SLAC is set to be formed, but the question is when and who will be comprised of this council. And that's a question that we've been asking our relevant stakeholders that have not been answered, and we will not know yet, or probably these issues that are being shared are not being shared to the public. Probably it is being in an amendment, but the result is that we're not sure whether the SLAC will be pushed to happen. Yeah, so that is the current situation of the Sabah Labour Ordinance lah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to protection against sexual harassment. By the way, any questions, we can leave it towards the end. I think there might be a lot of questions to our viewers here. Okay, so moving on. Now we want to talk about the protection against sexual harassment. And on our online survey that we've done with 81 respondents over the past couple months, these are definitely a strong indicator of what kind of sexual harassment is mostly faced in the workplace. And that is definitely verbal remarks and also unwanted touching. Even though these issues are possibly under the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, it isn't stated that it happens in the workplace. It could be in public as well. But in the workplace, battling these type of unwanted sexual harassment it's experienced quite widely in our workplaces. Yeah. So some of the additional responses that we get when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace, what were some of the reasons as to why they did not report to their HR or the management when it comes to being sexually harassed in the workplace? A lot of it has to do with lack of protection, or even the boss shielding the harasser instead. And so about 95% of our respondents mentioned that the current efforts surrounding preventing workplace sexual harassment by employers are not enough, and it can be much, much better. So in summary, although we actually met with one of the stakeholders that I won't mention their names, but when I mentioned that, okay, we want to talk about the SLO and there's no protection for sexual harassment in the workplace, and their response to us, to SERATA, was, but you all have the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, what? That's recently passed, why can't you use that? And actually, it's not enough, because the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act is for you to, it gives a guideline of what sexual harassment is for everyone, including in the public. But to have certain provisions under the Employment Act or the Sabah Labour Ordinance is essential, because in the Employment Act, there is here section 81B. Employers are required to an inquiry into complaints of sexual harassment made by employers, as the mentioned 81B under the Employment Act, meaning to say that if there are any complaints of sexual harassment by employees, employers are required to do an investigation further into these kind of cases. Whereas in the Sabah Labour Ordinance, we don't have that kind of protection, and they can easily just say, oh, you can file your own complaint, or you can, there is no disciplinary action towards the person. And that is a concerning bit of the SLO, not having that provisions. And under the EA, the fine that's been stated for unlawful, I guess, offenses of employers not doing what they're supposed to do under their laws, they are actually liable to a penalty of about 10,000. And actually, this fine was initially at 5,000, but with the recent amendments to the EA has been doubled into up to 10,000 ringgit. And that just shows just how much of a penalty sexual harassment can detriment someone's well-being. So yeah, so that's just some of the summary of our findings when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace. Saya tidak air, tidak apa. I hope you guys are still keeping up with me. Banat pala saya macakap. Okay, but yeah, thank you for listening in. Okay, we're almost halfway there. Okay, now when it comes to parental leave entitlement. Okay. Okay, so parental leave entitlement, as many of you know, macam dulu lah I pernah dengar my friends say like, oh, baru-baru ada the maternity leave from 60 days kena tambahkan to 98 days. Oh, tapi sini Sabah tidaklah. We don't have that. Paternity leave pun tidak. It's not applicable to us. So that is the realities of when it comes to parental leave entitlement. Well, Sana in federal and also Labuan get to enjoy an increased amount to 98 days of maternity leave, and also for fathers to have 7 consecutive days of paternity leave is actually a very good step for the Employment Act for Malaysia also as a whole, but it's not being applied here in Sabah. Itulah, it's not available, and we're only still entitled to 60 days for mothers here. And these are just some of the findings that we received from our online survey lah. Memang everybody has agreed, 90% of our respondents have agreed that yes, kita pun mau 98 hari ba. Yeah, and the main 2 reasons for that is physically healing from childbirth. And I think it goes without saying it's not an easy thing, delivering a new life into the world. And so I think these 2 are definitely the most the top reasons as to why maternity leave should be increased, as also because 98 days is in relation with the ILO standards. So I will also compare it to other ASEAN countries that have a better maternity leave. It's actually quite surprising, and it's actually quite nice to hear. I'll be comparing Singapore, Philippines, and Indonesia, and this is just a rough overview of what they have in terms of maternity leave. Yeah, so we can see I'm just only comparing the EA 98 days to Singapore, Philippines, and Indonesia. Actually more or less the same with Indonesia, but the Philippines also is actually eligible for non-married women, which is actually really good for single mothers. When for us in Sabah and also Malaysia, it's actually you have to be a married woman, and the person, your husband needs to be in a Malaysian citizen, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Betul kata Sabrina? Macam yeah, not sure.
I think you have to be married to.
Yes, you have to be married
to, yeah.
Yes. So when comparing these things, also it brought up the question of so if let's say for example my kid is I'm a single mother, I'm not eligible for maternity leave, maybe because my husband is not a Malaysian, or even I'm not married to my husband legally. So then you're not entitled to that in Malaysia. But as in the Philippines, it is. And that's actually another thing I wanted to bring up for the Philippines. They actually can transfer up to 7 days of their maternity leave to their husband or to their fathers. And then I think it's a very good act, like, wow, it's amazing. They're so forward thinking. Actually, I was supposed to have the years that they actually enacted this, because they did it much earlier than we did. Oh no, sorry, that was the paternity leave. So when you compare the maternity benefits from these other ASEAN countries are quite interesting and quite nice to say that there are some countries that are a lot more forward thinking in terms of paternity leave, transferring that to the father and actually increasing their leave. So that is quite an interesting and a good finding lah, when comparing our current entitlements, maternity leave entitlements. And then we move on to our paternity leave. Ini was also from our online survey that we did. And what were the top reasons as to why kalau fathers lah, you were to giving 7 days of paternity leave, what are the main 2 reasons as to why you want that leave? And it's also always, I mean, it's quite obvious lah, and it's quite understandable to help recovery of the spouse. It's your most vulnerable state. Of course, you want someone to support you, and also to establish a more involved parental role. So these 2 were by far the top reasons as to why paternity leave was so important to be under the SLO as well. And interestingly enough, a lot of fathers and also mothers who want their spouse to stay home would take from 2 weeks up to a month if need be to take care of your spouses, which is good. Which is really good indicator of how much we need paternity leave for our fathers in this society. Yeah. And I would like to share also here a little bit of the comparisons in Singapore. Singapore introduced their paternity leave although in 2013. And actually, fun fact, a lot of fathers didn't want to take paternity leave because it was still a very new thing. So that is quite understandable also. But in 2017, I think 6 years ago, they doubled it to 14 days. And actually, there is a government paid leave. So government actually support this by supporting the parental leave pay to these fathers lah. And in the Philippines, this is when the expanded maternity leave law was granted, meaning to say you can actually transfer their part of their wives' leaves to them. So that gives them up to 2 weeks. But in Indonesia's case is interesting lah. In the private sector, you only get 2 days. But if you are a civil servant, you get 1 whole month lah. And yeah, and that somehow it was there in terms of when these acts were enacted. They came much earlier than we did lah. So it's okay lah. We lambat sikit tapi okay lah. Good. Okay, so there's a lot of things to unpack. Actually, there's a lot of things that we went through under our report, and I hope you're still with me here. We're almost towards the end, but we also, with our recent collaboration on also acquiring a new advisor, which was Tebi or Tahira. She also gave us some advice on what our research and the framework of our research when it comes to what we've been doing the past couple of months lah. And the key findings that she's explained is the research and the framework of it is very, how to say, I think she explained this to me. Like if it's chicken curry, you can't just talk about like the potato and the carrots in the chicken curry. You have to talk about the whole dish as a whole. So that's where we understand that although we want to talk about the Sabah Labour Ordinance, we as an organization right now are only focusing on 2 or 3 aspects of the SLO, which is actually if we want to create a more compelling case in that sense, where the key finding number 2, building a compelling case to get people's buy-ins, we would have to talk about the Sabah Labour Ordinance as a whole and all the individual issues that are under the SLO. Yeah, because when it came to another sharing, when it came to meeting with agencies and also employers association, whenever we want to talk about sexual harassment or parental leave, not to say it's not important, but their main focus is towards maybe the minimum wage or maybe the other issues under the SLO. And to get that buy-in is really important for everyone to create that movement for the SLO to be amended. I will be sharing just a little bit about what other recommendations that we would have added on to our report to make it a more cohesive report on the Sabah Labour Ordinance when assessing gender-sensitive laws. And that is number one, the amendment to the schedule of the SLO. And I will let Tebi to talk a little bit more on, give a bit of commentary on the few recommendations that she's given. And I think that is all from me for the time being. Yeah. And if I can get Tebi of one Tahira online. Yeah, so boleh dengar. Okay, so before I pass on over to Tahira, she gave a very long and very comprehensive recommendation and also review on our report, and very grateful for her input and also telling us what's the real scene that we need to open our eyes to. So if I can give it over to Tahir to just share a few brief commentary, then that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. By default, by design, I'm a very long-winded person. So I will try to keep it brief. Actually, I've got my team here online today. Got Jahairi, Amir from my team. And we actually went through the report. We actually got our panel lawyers to go through the report as well. So that's how we came up with the recommendations. It wasn't a short story recommendation, basically. It's from years of our research and practice as well. Okay, before I even give my dua scene, just want to put the record straight. For maternity leave, under the EA, it is actually applicable for all female employees. Yeah, regardless whether you're married or not married.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Kalau let's say, because there are actually cases whereby the husband of the female employee passed away before she found out she was pregnant. She is still entitled. Yang cuma yang perlu ada a marital nexus is the fertility. So you have got to be the legal father or biological father. Okay. Basically, what I commented in the report, I think it was a very well-researched report. And not having a legal spinal cord to your research team, I think it was very well done. The literature review was very well done. Except that, you see, when you look at statutory amendments like this, when you want to push for statutory amendments, I think the first thing that you need to look at is the overall spirit of the law. Okay, the spirit of this SLO is, in essence, a piece of legislation to protect labor rights in Sabah. And I also think, having said that, it is not just for the Sabahans to fight for these rights. It is also for people in Semenanjung as well and in Sarawak for us to fight together for the rights of our counterparts, our friends in the Borneo states. Because, we have a lot of, like for me as a consultant, I have a lot of clients who have businesses in Sabah. And it is very difficult when you can't streamline the laws. You have different sets of laws in Sabah, Sarawak. You have different sets of laws in Semenanjung. Well, I understand the need to keep the unique provisions under SLO intact. I think most of the general amendments that the EA can actually be adopted by the SLO. So one of the things that I think should be, first of all, would be, of course, to lift the ceiling off, because right now the ceiling is still 1,500. But under the recent amendment to the EA covers everyone under a contracted service. And what's the difference, you say? Yeah, there is a vast difference. Kalau ada threshold, that means only the people under that threshold be eligible for coverage and all the benefits. But if you take away the whole threshold, everybody is covered. The only threshold that remains the EA is the 4,000 ringgit threshold for overtime payment, public holiday rates, shift allowances, and termination benefits, which I think is fair. But other than that, protection against discrimination, for example, flexible working hours. This is something which I think should be in the Sabah Labour Ordinance together with whatever you highlighted just now on maternity benefits, paternity benefits. Flexible working hours will greatly help Sabah. Because in Sabah, okay, in KL, in the city itself, not everyone can afford childcare. And I'm very sure in Sabah, this is the same. It's not just a matter of you can't afford. It is also the scarcity of having, these services available. And, if you can be allowed to work in a hybrid mode, in a flexible mode, and employers can be more understanding. Yeah, he will be the employers having more understanding. So I think it will greatly help Sabahans. Of course, things like forced labor, discrimination, I've put all that in my report. I mean, if you would like a copy of the report to read together with SERATA's, more than welcome. I also think that one of the things that, a little bit told me, you see, the proposed amendments to the SLO has actually been passed by the Sabah Cabinet. It's just a matter of bringing it up to the Parliament to the table. And a little bit told me it's going to be tabled at the middle of this year. Now we are approaching towards the middle of the year. I have not heard anything at all, and the little bird's gone. So that is one thing, we can't really see where the light is at the end of the tunnel, or where the end of the tunnel is best place. The second thing is whatever is being tabled in the Parliament may not actually be what will be gazetted at the end of the day. But this was what happened with the EA. The EA had so many all-encompassing draft amendments. At the end of the day, when it came out the way it came out today. Similarly with the Industrial Relations Act as well. There was even this very, very compelling point about establishing an industrial appeals court. Tapi bila dah gazette, the news about the appeals. So this is why I said to SERATA, it is very important for you to make a very compelling, not just a legal case, but also a business case for this act to be revised, to be amended. Number one. Number two, for the amendments to be business oriented, for the amendment to be sound for the socio-economic aspect, to be, for all the employers to buy into the amendments. Because you don't, when you enforce labor rights, you must also remember employers also have prerogatives and rights under the law. And we need to balance those rights. We can't just advocate for employees' rights and forget all about the employers, because the employers are the one paying the employees. So without them, there will be no contract of service. So this is something you have to remember. So there must be a check and balance, really. And in pushing for these amendments, we need to get the buy-in of both the employees and the employees, and also the government agencies. Now, the way I see it is this: you have got so many cooks over one pot soup. I can put it bluntly in this way. I'm an independent consultant, so I am very, very free with my opinion. I'm very blunt with my opinion when I express it. You have got too many cooks over just one brio of soup. Now, if you look back at your report, you even admittedly you have the JTK, you have MOSTI, you have Sabah Labour Advisory Council. So at the end of the day, siapa yang akan regulate all these amendments? Siapa yang akan enforce? Who will be the custodian? Siapa yang akan buat? Banyak tukang masak, riuknya satu. So at the end of the day, apa akan jadi? So kenapa tak ikut? Macam di Semenanjung, what we have is the GTK, the Labour Office, which is a creature of the Employment Act. So by right, you should just have one creature of the SLO, which is GTK. And all this enforcement matters, even the training and awareness matters, should rest in GTK. Satu body sahaja, senang orang nak. senang. Employer nak refer senang. Lagipun, if you look at the amendments to the to the EA, it did say very clearly that the Director General of Labour has the right to inquire into complaints. So kalau Director General of Labour, dia duduk di mana? Kalau di Sabah, dia duduk di
JTK.
Negeri Sabah. So dia ada satu Director General of Labour di situ. So they should. Kalau tidak, nanti ramai-ramai ada banyak bising-bising tapi tidak ada solution. Kan? So
Betul.
itu satu lah. Ya, betul. So basically, I have you have my support with this. I am all for the changes in Sabah because, first of all, Sabah isn't what it is in 1950. Now Sabah has massive talents, coming from UMS, coming from foreign universities, coming back to the hometown in Sabah. And this isn't like what we were in the 1950s or even in the 1980s when I went to St. Agnes. Okay, this was, yeah, I did go to St. Agnes. Okay, I'm Sabahan by birth. I grew up in KL. Right? I did spend 4 years in St. Agnes. So this is something that, when we push for improvements to the law needs to be relevant. It needs to be modern. It needs to be able to resolve contemporary issues. Kalau law tu so archaic, kan? Dia macam satu fosil. Dia macam benda-benda kuno. Dia duduk situ tapi tak ada function. Tak ada guna lah. Kan? Dia guna jadi macam antik, dia perhiasan. Dia letak dekat mana-mana. Oh, tu law. Tapi lepas tu nak pakai, where do we refer? You go to JTK pun, yeah, I wish we were like, our counterpart using the And also, of course, we need to be in line with global practices where discrimination is manifestly prohibited by law. Forced labor is manifestly prohibited by law. So these are the things that we should, Sabahan should be aware of, and Sabahan should know that, what is wrong and what is right when it comes to employment. Which brings me to the next point about, the news about our Sabahans being scammed, all of these snake oil sellers, job scams overseas and things like this. Membabitkan orang-orang Sabah. Kenapa orang Sabah? Kenapa orang Sarawak? Sebab most of the time they're not aware of what is right and what is wrong. Tidak tahu nak membezakan job scam dengan mana yang authentic. Kesian. So hopefully we should bring our SRO, okay, at least to the minimum standards, okay, which is streamlined or aligned with EA. If we can do better, let's do better. But the most important thing is once that is not the end of the whole thing. Once we get it done, once that's passed by Parliament, the next thing is to make people aware, to make everyone aware of their rights, both employees and employees, so that, this is not just going to be a piece of, just something in writing and nothing done. That's why elephant standing there. This is going to be something which is going to move or pave the way forward for a more modern, a more inclusive, and a fairer workplace in Sabah. This is what we can do for everyone. So I do hope my counterparts from Semenanjung will actually support SERATA and support every other NGO who's pushing for this, because we need to let them know that you're not alone in this. This is a Malaysian initiative. Okay, I think that's about it. I only have just one more point. Your penalty, bukan penalty, my dear. Your penalty is now under the EA is 50,000.
Oh,
it was 10,000. It was 10,000,
see.
but from the 1st of January, it was revised to 5 times. Section 99A. General penalty 50,000. So you don't put up your notice on sexual harassment, 50,000.
Wow. Okay. Went up to 50K. Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you very much, Pandahira, for giving us a very good commentary on not just our report as we presented earlier, but also on the current situation that we're facing as Sabahans. the SLO is a very archaic law that does not is not in line with global standards and or not even our Semenanjung counterparts. And I think one thing I wanted to mention also, which I think is very, very important, what was given as a comment to us with our laws was, well, SERATA is advocating for gender equality, but opting to only push for the amendments, certain amendments like selective aspects of the SLO isn't a compelling case for us to bring up to kasih bising-bising pasal the SLO, which is, I think, a very essential point when we're making noise about why we should be experiencing the same benefits as our counterparts in Semenanjung.
Yeah, that's essential because
that is very
like I said,
essential.
it is the spirit of the act itself. It's for labor rights. The other thing is that you have to understand this is business. Yeah, it's a piece of legislation,
Yes.
but it has a lot to do with businesses. And to get the employers buy-in, to get the employees union, the employees federations buy-in, the amendments need to be business savvy. It needs to provide solutions to businesses.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is why we need to have that covered. You know, for whoever it was that told you earlier about the, you know, the sexual harassment bill,
Yeah.
sexual harassment act, they say, oh, tak payahlah hadir dalam
You
the
already have the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. What? That was the exact response that I
the
got
issue,
when we don't have that under the
maybe
SLO.
okay, kalau dia cakap macam tu, dan kalau pada saya, even the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act pun tak payahlah, because the penal code already covered everything. If you notice, the penal code actually covered section 354 is on is on outrage of modesty. Section 355 is on the act of dishonoring, using criminal force or using assault to dishonor a person. Okay, and section 375, kalau tak silap 375 is rape. So kalau penal code sudah ada, then
what's the point of that? Exactly.
Tapi kenapa kita mesti reinforce this for all sectors, not just for the the public, but also specifically for the workplace, is because as I mentioned to you when we tabled the report, and I would like to share this with the rest of the audience. You see, when you are an employee, you have a contract of service with the employer. And whatever happens to you, if you're being charged with a criminal offense, with a criminal charge, that has nothing to do with your employment now. So let's say you're being charged with assault, with a rape, for example, or drug trafficking for that matter. And okay, the employer says, okay, we leave it to the police to take care, we leave it to the court. So what if, one fine day when you were being arraigned and there was not enough evidence to charge you with it, and that person is being let go, that person who was in custody, okay, charges are dropped because of lack of evidence. So he ambles back to the company, ambles back to the office and say, can I have my job back? What are you going to do? You cannot just shoo him out and say, hey, you're being charged with sexual harassment, under such and such act. And he said, yeah, well, there's nothing to do with me because, hey, my contract with you is still sustaining. So that is why we need to address the thing. Your contractual relationship is private law. It needs to be addressed in the workplace. Kalau you rasa orang tu, kalau let's say especially if it's sexual harassment that happened to a colleague in the workplace, settlekan dulu dalam rumah, baru cerita di luar. Because cerita di luar tidak ada guarantee bahawa dia akan disabitkan kesalahan kalau dia tak salah. Kalau mahkamah kata tak ada bukti, tak ada prima facie evidence bahawa dia salah, dia akan balik ke tempat kerja, dia akan minta kerja dia balik. Imagine the workplace environment, what people are going to feel. Where is your duty as an employer to protect the safety of your workers? And then he'll do it again. And then you go and say, okay, ini police punya case. So it doesn't work that way. So people who want to give their opinion about the Sexual Harassment Act, they have to understand the holistic nature of why these acts were enacted in the first place. That is the reason why. Betul lah, you cakap Section 81B. So
exactly.
That's my
yeah.
I'll mute my mic now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Actually, when we spoke earlier a few days ago regarding this, I was wondering how can I say this during our report launch and make it make sense why provisions for sexual harassment, a protection for sexual harassment under the SLO is much needed. Because I remember when I was faced with that question, hey, you all have the anti-sexual harassment, what? No need lah, okay, what? And I'm like, how do I answer that? Yeah, so once again, I just want to say a very big thank you, and we're very grateful to have Tahira as an advisor for us. And I think moving forward from now, there's a lot of things that we can expand on, not just on what we've touched on, as what was mentioned by Tahir, that we need to look at the SLO as a legislation for labor issues as a whole, and to create a more compelling case for that buy-in from not just employees federations to support us, but to also make a how to say, a more cohesive stand when it comes to actually bringing change towards the SLO. Yeah, mau 1 jam sudah kan. I'm just going to share a little bit on the challenges on what we faced doing this report for the past 6 months lah. I'll just keep it short and brief. Then you all be off lah. So some of the challenges were definitely meeting with relevant stakeholders, getting people to talk to NGOs like us, like who are really macam not so known yet here in KK, was proven to be really difficult lah. And with good reasoning juga lah. I mean, government agencies are not always free to receive courtesy visits from us, but at the same time, perhaps our approach also could have been better in terms of like addressing what our interests are. Sometimes we want to talk about the Sabah Labour Ordinance, but there are other points under the Sabah Labour Ordinance that does not fall in line with their interests, for example. So meeting with stakeholders were proven to be quite difficult lah when we wanted to conduct this research, or so to say lah. And another challenge that we faced was also the angle we were approaching this report. Although at SERATA, we're trying to give the gender perspective of certain laws under the SLO, we try to focus more on the impact and the interaction, social interactions when it comes to these particular laws for employers and employees lah. But as a small NGO, and also learning, and also you know, as our first report and as our first official like product, I think there's a lot of things that we can improve on. And thank you to everyone here for participating and listening in. For those of you that have been with us since day one also, I think you are our biggest supporters, and we truly grateful for all your support lah. And itu sajalah the challenges that we face. And also one more thing that I wanted to say, thank you to all those who have been listening to me, and also I hope I made sense throughout the presentation or throughout the launch. Minta maaf juga kalau ada apa-apa kekurangan, but I think as a first time doing this for SERATA, I think it's we can only go up from here. Yeah. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for joining us. And
Nanti dulu ada lucky draw. Don't go.
yeah. Oh, sorry, saya lupa. If there are any questions, feel free to post them now. And after this ada lucky draw lah, as promised, as advertised. Kalau ada apa-apa questions or maybe macam feedback, because I know some of you come from the legal background, and maybe you have some insights on how to help us in the future, or give us a bit of insight, feel free to do so. Where's the chat box? I will give a few apalah. Or even if you just want to say a few words of like encouragement, yeah, you guys are doing well, that's also much appreciated lah. Kalau ada. Kalau tidak, oh, okay. Hello, Audi Ali. From the ILO. Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and folks from SERATA, and also Tahira for the presentation. I really appreciated all the updates that you gave when it comes to the amendments for the Sabah Labour Ordinances. We and I know we have been trying to follow the movement on this, but information have been rather scarce. So appreciate all the information that was provided in this briefing. I just want to echo. There's no question. I just want to echo your strategy when it comes to the amendment for Sabah Labour Ordinances, because unlike the legislations in Malaysia, all matters pertaining to labor seems to be collected under this omnibus legislation, which is the Sabah Labour Ordinances. In compared to Semenanjung, there are various other legislations when it comes to workmen's insurance and so on. It also speaks about labor as well. I just want to add that because I briefly noted the list of the disparity differences between the EA and the Sabah Labour Ordinances. I'm just wondering whether SERATA or the civil society in Sabah in general are also looking into the issue of child labor, because Peninsular Malaysia, there have been amendments in the Child and Young Persons Employment Act 1966, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he dropped out.
Alah, sayangnya, he had a very good question. No, I think
the Child and Young Persons Act, there's slight refinement when it comes to the definition of child labor that we do not have yet in the Sabah Labour Ordinance.
Yeah.
So just wondering whether you could perhaps foster the dialogue in Sabah when it comes to child labor as well. That's all from me. Thank you again so much for the.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Is it Audi or Ali? Audi Ali?
Just call me Audi.
Audi. Oh, nice, like the car. Oh, cool. But yeah, thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. Actually, when it came to our stakeholder roundtable discussion, it was a very general sharing between these agencies and our fellow CSOs, because our fellow CSOs all come from different backgrounds. Some push towards, are more focused on migrant workers or foreign workers, and also the topic of the child labor under the SLO. I am not sure. I feel like it was brought up once or twice, but I remember reading it from somewhere that we need protection for child labor under that the SLO. I'm not too familiar about the details about it, but do you have any input there, Sabrina? Maybe you might know any.
I know that some other NGOs, they are working on forced labor, including child labor as well.
So would child labor fall under forced labor in a way? No, right? No, right? It'll be separate.
Overlaps, but not quite.
Not quite, right? It's a separate, yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps Puan Tebi has any.
Yeah, her head was like yes and no. I was following her.
Yeah, it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid, yes and no. It should be separate. It should be. It has the nexus between forced labor and child labor, but there should be a dedicated statutory provision for child labor. And I think I did mention during our preliminary discussion earlier on is just that this labor ordinance should also encompass foreign workers, just like the Employment Act. Because we have a lot of migrants, a lot of foreign workers, and we have all this proses pemutihan dan sebagainya. These people, they are very eager to work. They're very honest people, but sometimes their birth certificate pun tidak ada, so we don't know who is a young person, who's a child. So we do not want some unscrupulous people to go and exploit these migrants. They are a very vulnerable community. So this is one of the things we need to look into. But yeah, I believe there are NGOs looking into this child and young people, exploitation. But SERATA can encompass this as well. Put it together with your project. Like I said, build a good business case, and this is one of them. Odie, thank you very much for that.
Thank you for your input as well. I really think that in order for SERATA to move even further is to work with CSOs that are specialized in certain cases, like for example child labor, forced labor, migrant workers or foreign workers in that case, so that we can actually create a more cohesive and compelling case lah for the Sabah Labour Ordinance. Anyways, Audi, thanks again for your question, and I really appreciate you being with us today also. Okay, so are there any more other questions? Kalau tidak, we come to the fun bit, yang actually fun. Okay, so I'm just gonna check kalau tiada. Okay, no hands up. Are we okay to move on to the last bit? Wih, okay. Boleh lah kan? Boleh lah. Okay. So lucky draw. Siapa buat lucky draw? Sabrina kan? Okay.
Okay, I think I have to share my screen because
Okay, so I'll stop sharing.
yeah.
Do I stop my screen? Stop share.
So kita mau bergambar dulu. Boleh menggambar
Oh,
dulu?
boleh. Besarnya muka saya.
Boleh
Okay.
on dulu video sekejap
If-
saja. Yeah, what else? That's it, separate screen. Okay, no one else coming. TJ, why is your black screen? Tidak nampak.
Oh, I want my video. I'm not sure why it's black.
Why is your video not? Okay lah,
I
never
don't
mind.
know.
Okay, we okay, Jeff. All right, 1, 2, 3. Well, okay. Let's see. Okay, one more time, I think. I have to close this. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, lucky draw.
Okay, let me.
Bah, Sabrina.
Saya
Let's
cari
go.
dulu saya lucky draw screen. Yeah, I'm also doing because I was doing it just now.
Osi tidak payahlah. Osi keluar saja. Orang Sarawak dapat lucky draw nanti. Dari Sarawak.
Okay, I already put the name. Okay, boleh kan? Okay, well, let's see.
Payahlah my name Okay, ngam. Okay.
Harap-harap yang the name that's in here.
Yeah.
TJ.
Tidak payahlah. Astaga.
Okay, TJ. Later you message me.
Nama lah Bugi lah, let the rest take.
Okay, Bugi ya.
Okay.
Okay, ada Chan lain.
For information, TJ is also a part of SERATA. So kena kasihan dulu lah. Biarlah bah. Kasih orang lain. Chan. Amir, Haris. Hai. Ada kah?
My
Mana sudah
mentee
kah?
tu.
Ada.
Belanja,
Wow.
Amir. Belanja.
Oh, dapat juga. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Just DM me. I mean, just write in your chat to me your email address ya.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, one more.
Two more. Yeah. Musa. Siapa?
Siapa Musa?
Okay.
Ya, saya.
Okay, thank you Musa for joining us today also. And you also get to win 20 ringgit Grab.
Boleh minum-minum ya, makan-makan.
Boleh order Grab. Okay. And then last but not least, siapa lah? Colin. Terima kasih. Colin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Share sama aku punya kawan semua. Don't know what 20 ringgit can get, but yeah, to share. But yes, definitely. Okay, so that concludes our report launch, and I just wanna say another round of thanks to all of you that have been with us throughout the whole session today. Those of you yang ada manang Grab voucher, untung lah, and it was
Please
really nice to
message,
meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who we've managed to contact, I mean, got into contact or meet today, which is like Amir and Audi, Jeffrey from Nasara Consult, Tahira as well, and our number one supporters from our friends here in KK, Kasih, Megan, Colin, Valentine, and also to the team in SERATA. Thank you very much for your support. It really, we really appreciate it. And I hope that from now we just get better, and it's not just the 18 of us or 17 of us. It will be a bigger, larger group of us lah. And thank you so much, and happy Wesak there. Thank you for taking time out of today's public holiday to be with us. Itu saja dari saya lah. I'm Jennifer, and I was your host for today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Big round of
Okay, thank
applause for
you.
Jennifer.
Yeah, good job. Good job. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
We can end the call.